We got Gators breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Back here again with Sponge, Andrew Franklin, talking a little bit of Gators. We'll take a small look back. We'll take a look ahead. We'll talk some other games. On the backside of that, focus on the Gators with Alex Shepard. We'll round out this episode. So, yeah, there's going to be, we kind of the transition episode, Sponge. We'll take a look back a little bit, but we also got to look forward. Florida's got another big game on the road, Death Valley. We'll get into all that. But, it's few days.
Yeah,
still kind of hurts.
You and Will went into it. You had your the sorrow session, and the breakdown of the demise of Saturday's debacle, I guess is what we'll call it.
Debacle.
Man, it was
word for it.
It was I had a good time up until about 7:00 Saturday night. Because I got to go down and go with Gus and some of those 2000 guys that were getting honored down there for that 25-year SEC championship team. So we had a great tailgate. We got to hang out and see a lot of the old guys, which was super good. I hadn't seen guys like Lito and Jabbar and Kelvin Kite and Darryl Lee and did the Gator walk and everything, man. It was just he was just like, all right, let's get in here and let's get this win. And then just all of a sudden you're in this game and you're just like, what is going on, man? This is not what we expected. This is not what was supposed to be going down. And, you're fighting and clawing. And you're just like, all right, let's just get out of here with a win. And, to not be able to is, and then everything that we'd been building up, talking about this whole summer when I started doing this with you, the optimism and the equity and insurance that we put in to be like, hey, we're going to be good and we're feeling good and we like this and we like that. And, just to come crashing down like that in like a couple hour span is just like, leaves a bitter taste in your mouth for sure.
Yeah, it does for sure, man. So, well, they got to figure something out.
Yeah.
So we'll get into all that right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown, and we'll move forward a little bit and talk LSU. But everybody hit that like button, subscribe right here on Gators Breakdown on the YouTube version, or your favorite podcast platform. But smashing that like button really, really helps us out. And all those things. If you want to support Gators Breakdown, that's one way to do it. And then also an announcement there from the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. His username is Zook over Napier, and it was that way before Saturday, believe it or not. So, but he signed up for the Gators Breakdown Plus $10 a month tier. So with that comes a shout out, or they get to blast a message. And look, it kind of has to be respectful and pre-approved. Everybody kind of knows the avenue and the route we go here on Gators Breakdown. But all he wanted to do was thank me and say, quote, Zook is better. So there you go. Guys, you can become a Gators Breakdown Plus member as well. GatorsBreakdownPlus.com. Extra episodes, chat episodes, ad-free episodes of Gators Breakdown. You get access to the Discord server. And like I said, if you sign up for that $10 a month tier, you get like a little shout out right there of whatever you want it to be here on Gators Breakdown or on Twitter or whatever, however you want it. So something kind of unique there on that one. But Zook is better from Zook over Napier on the Discord. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that was like I say, that was literally, right after my time, because Gus was on that 2000 team. That was his freshman year. Yeah. Won the SEC that year, and then Spurrier the next year decided he was going to take his talents to the Washington Redskins, and then Old Zucker came into town.
Old Zucker came in town, comes into Jacksonville in 2002, and Gus with the pick six on DJ Shockley.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was, like I say, it was. What's crazy is going back and thinking about them honoring that team, and then you look at the wall up there on the board, and you're like, see the SEC championships, and you're like, literally, there was just like, we're spoiled, but when you kind of look at it, that from 91,
wait, we were spoiled.
Well, there you go. Exactly. There you go. The way to preface it, because and here's the thing is, kind of a small window. We had the Spurrier stretch, and then we had to go through the Zucker and some of his, and then we get Urban, and then we think, okay, and then we win 2 natties, and we ain't done nothing since, man. And it's kind of rough. Like, we had a couple good seasons here and there, flash in the pan.
Yeah.
But when you look at that wall and you want to see championships, SEC or natties, it's been a hot minute. So it's definitely like, man, and like I say, it's not like we had optimism of like, yeah, we're national championship back or anything like that. But it's just like, you had the optimism of, I mean, we've been talking playoff potential with this team, and for it, like I say, I think we all feel just the air let out of the room, and now there's just like, are we really going to run this table on the schedule here? Or even like we said, we had 9-3 get in the playoff. Well, there's one of your games that you got to go get that you didn't think you might have to go get. So, and like I say, we got to go coach speak, baby, one game at a time. Just worry about LSU.
We'll get into some of that. We'll hear from Jake Slaughter this episode as well, what he had to say Monday. And look, I even said it the other day. Some of that, I know you're going to hear it. As you said, coach speak, back against the wall mentality. And it's just, okay, why does it take something like this to get there?
I know.
This team has earned nothing.
I know.
Billy Napier's teams are the first. Look, great end to the season last year. Okay, you got some pat on the backs for that.
Yeah.
You still hadn't won anything.
Yeah.
You still haven't won. You went back and mentioned SEC championships and national championships. You can't have that mindset and expect that to happen. Right. And why does it take getting punched in the mouth? Why does it take getting a loss? And that's the aggravating part of it. And that's why I really don't. We'll, like I said, we'll hear some of that, but it falls on deaf ears in a whole lot of ways.
Totally.
My thing is, it should not take that for a team that's been in this situation that they've been in the last 3 years. You should have been tired of getting your brains beat in the last 3 years. It shouldn't take a loss. It shouldn't. Oh, this is a wake up call. Why?
Yeah.
Why we have to be there?
No, exactly. And like I say, it's one of those things of you should feel the intensity of basically every game, backs against the wall. Like we can't afford to lose a game. We can't afford to let's, play it safe or, play with your hair on fire and get after it. And, and it doesn't matter who the opponent is. It doesn't matter if it's LIU week 1, USF week 2. I don't care if you're playing Georgia and Jacksonville. You play and I think too, part of it is, we've talked about it, is Billy doesn't have to be Kirby Smart or Matt Rule. I know his videos floating around of like his intense locker room speech, but Billy, just his ho-hum demeanor sometimes is like the guys. I think that whole thing, you are who you coach are, your coaches, you kind of vibe off of what they vibe off of. And, like I say, his demeanor is just sometimes just like, oh, well, all right, let's kick a field goal, and like I say, I don't need these guys to just be running through brick walls and, with their hair on fire, literally. But it's like, you got to show some kind of something, man. Cause again, the team didn't even, I didn't feel their energy Saturday, it's kind of like they're just in a dogfight. And it's just like, well, those moments, it almost literally took, I won't back down in the fourth quarter for like them to get motivated. It was weird because it's been a while since I've been in the stadium, and like I say,
well, maybe, but the fourth quarter wasn't good.
I know, but the very beginning of that, because that was literally right before Vernell sparked that punt return. But it was just like, I mean, the crowd was in it pretty much the entire day. They were trying to be as loud as they could. It was raucous, and it was just, like I say, just one of those things of like, you shouldn't be in a ball game, and like I say, everybody's putting blame on this, putting blame on that, and we've talked about it, and like, it's a whole combination of everything, man. And like, you can't, again, we always used to say, a my bad is, you can't have too many my bads. And everybody had my bads. It was my bad that Billy called this play. It was my bad that Livingston didn't turn the proper way and catch DJ's first touchdown. My bad that Austin Barbers gets a holding call on 3rd and 2, now it's 3rd and 7. My bad that we got, offensive pass interference on a touchdown. You add all.
My bad. We're spitting in somebody's face.
Yeah, my bad. I just saw a guy do it 2 nights ago on, in the NFL, and it was the biggest story. And I don't know what the guy said to me, but I couldn't hold my composure to not spit in this guy's face right in front of the ref. So it's like, you get all of that, and sure, there's a lot to blame and a lot to go around. And you've said it 1,000 times. The way we play under Billy, everything is so hard, so difficult. Like, nothing looks easy. And then when you get down to the nitty gritty and to the very end, your thin razor wire of having to execute or do things perfect is the degree of difficulty is off the charts, AKA that 3rd and 8 play. I was literally asking the guys around me, like, we already screwed up this first down RPO play, letting DJ, decide whether he wanted to throw or pass or run or pass. He decides to throw, no, you got to run it obviously there to try to get some timeouts. But at that point now you're just like, all right, we it's almost like we have to execute this 3rd and 8 to win this game, and it was a pretty good play call, pretty good throw. VB didn't make the catch. It was still difficult. It wasn't like a layup catch, but you make that play, you win the game, but it can't boil down to just having to make that play,
Right.
And like, it shouldn't have to come down to that. And then, I feel like we've said it too. We play such unopportunistic defense sometimes. I mean, I feel like we play great the entire game. And then we're like, you know what? Let's let these guys go 90 down here to kick an extra point field goal, and it's just like, and a lot of that was aided too, obviously, the spit penalty and the pass interference. And then you basically let them get a screenplay for 30 something yards, and they were already in field goal range. So now it's drown the clock out. We butchered, coming out of a turnover on the field goal that they missed a 58-yarder that we didn't have a timeout because we had to call one there. So we didn't have 3 to like try to get the ball back with any time. It's like I say, it's just a combination of just bad. And, like I say, it just sucks that you can't get it together to execute it to, win a game like that. Get out of there with an ugly win, man. Give me an ugly win. Like Clemson, they were down 16-0, looking like trash, and they figured it out against Troy, So it's just like, it's survival of the fittest, man. Just win the game. It's not about, looking pretty and all that. But guess what? You got a big fat L, and now it's like the rubber's meeting the road now. So where are we going from here?
That's what we'll talk about the rest of this episode right here on Gators Breakdown. We will kind of move forward. I mean, of course, some of it will come back to this, but we'll hear from Billy Napier on SEC teleconference. I asked him a couple of questions today. Like I said, we'll hear from Jake Slaughter as well. But first, we know the Gators looked rough last weekend, and you know what else looks rough? Just outdated popcorn ceilings in my home. Well, that's why I'm partnering with Gator Drywall of Duval. They've been transforming Jacksonville homes for over 25 years, and I've got them scheduled to modernize my ceilings pretty soon. What makes Gator Drywall special is the family atmosphere. Brandon and his crew, they treat every project like they're working on their own home. True professionals, handling everything from new construction to repairs, drywall, installation, finishing, texturing, and yes, that popcorn ceiling removal that I can't wait to experience. Gator Drywall of Duval takes care of every detail from start to finish. No headaches, no surprises, just quality craftsmanship that you'll be proud of, and you'll be proud of your home again too. I'll be sharing before and after photos when they finish my place. So, if you've been staring at those outdated ceilings for too long, it's time to call the experts at Gator Drywall of Duval at 904-793-2088 or visit them at gatordrywallofduval.com. All right, suppose let's get into Billy Napier from a couple questions, not the whole thing, but a couple questions I asked him on today's SEC teleconference. After this unexpected early season loss, what is the balance of maybe having to go back to the drawing board or sticking with the process of building for this season?
I think specifically here, everything that's been built here didn't all of a sudden just disappear, okay? We didn't perform to the best of our ability. Ball didn't bounce our way on a few things. But there's been a ton of investment put into the people on our team, within the organization. And those things still exist. If you've been doing this the right way, you've developed some intangibles to prepare for these type of moments. And sometimes the game gives you what you need. It gives you exactly what you need. And I think teams, there's a number of examples. This can galvanize your group. I think when adversity hits, you need to elevate, and you definitely don't need to shrink back. So we're going to double down on who we are and try to go play a brand of football that we all can be proud of.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Some people noticed he cut me off there. Wouldn't even let me finish the question there. But
You know what, David? You know what, David?
hey, you know what?
Investment here.
I'm sure he's kind of frustrated.
Totally.
I'm sure. But the reason I asked the question, Sponge, this is an early season loss. 4 years in a row now. Florida's 1-1 under Billy Napier. Like, how do you balance kind of going back to the drawing board if you have to? I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at. Do you have to go to the drawing board in some aspects or sticking with the process? Because it's only 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
You don't want to completely dismiss everything that you prepared this season for. And, he took it big picture. It was continuing what has been built. Well, you're 20-20. So, all right. So, what's that? Dude, there has been some good things, in player experience and player, acquiring talent. That's why we're so disappointed a bit, because we think this talent's better on this roster in some things, but you're still 20-20.
Yeah.
But you're early enough in this season. What have you seen in 2 games? Do you have to go back to the drawing board on some aspects, or do you still stick with your process? Like, when's the threshold for that?
Yeah. And here's the thing. It is so early in the year, and this was kind of, in a sense, unexpected by all of us, including them probably, and I mean,
that probably shouldn't be lost either, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were expecting our first loss to maybe come this weekend against LSU, or next weekend versus Miami. And so, and like you said before, why does it take losing to a UCF or USF to get you all of a sudden to galvanize your team together and backs against the wall, and we got to go play for everyone? And, that's how you should play every week, And so, I agree with what he says. They've built in and put in investment and all this stuff. And it's, it didn't bounce their way Saturday. So now, and here's the best part about it. It's going to play out. That's the good part about it. We get to watch it. And so you either going to put up or shut up. Go back to that episode, put up or shut up. All of y'all, everybody, coaches, players, everybody on the staff that you built, everyone, now you have a chance to go shut everyone up, or go tell everyone hey, this is the type of brand of football we're playing. Yeah, we definitely didn't do what we were supposed to against South Florida, and or they're going to get punched in the mouth Saturday in Baton Rouge and be like, well, this team ain't about nothing, and that's the good part about it. That's the good part about sports is if you say what you guys have been doing is, building this up to basically be a championship level team, be a contender, be a SEC competitor, put yourself on the national landscape, be involved in the conversation, then you've got the full opportunity with this road you got to hoe here, coming up with all these teams you got to play. And like I say, you take it one at a time and we'll see what happens. But I know we've talked about it. By him telling you that answer, did that bode any confidence in you that you're going to basically be like, yeah, we're beating LSU this week? I would probably say no, because guess what? We haven't seen it enough. And that's what we always say. We always say, let me see. What gave us the confidence was what we did see at the end of last year. We saw that 5-game win streak. We saw those 2 big wins.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to go there next.
Yeah.
Did we overvalue that?
Yeah, totally. We probably totally did. And like I say, us as Gator fans and us as, we clamored for anything positive because it's been pretty bad the last several years. And so you think, okay, we've hit the turning point, and you look at all of the arrows pointing up and all of the things that looked good coming in. So of course we're definitely going to be on the positive side. We're not going to be up here we're going to suck. I know we're going to I know everything's going good. And, but I
said it Saturday night after the game too. Florida fans weren't the only one.
Yeah.
Josh Pate, the most popular college football voice, had Florida in his playoff.
Yeah, totally.
Other teams had Florida top 15 fringe playoff team. So it wasn't Florida fans just gassing up Florida.
No, and I think part of where this is getting lost too is the whole DJ situation right now. You know, I think everyone has, just put him on this pedestal to where he's the next coming, only Gatorade Jordan brand athlete, Gatorade Heisman high school player of the year, the best freshman transcendent legendary player, blah, blah, yada, 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 yada. And we get a little bit of taste of what he can do last year in the sample size we got early in the year. And then he started, after he gets hurt in the Georgia game. So, and then like I say, we do get those wins. So all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, but then you get this injury stuff that, basically came on at the end of last year after the bowl game, like, I guess we've talked about it, is like, the whole not practicing thing. I guess it's a really big deal, and I know it is, but, we were just assuming that this kid's so great that like he can just rip it. And, you can see the tentativeness with the way he's playing, and you can see the bad mechanics and some of the stuff. And you can see, some of the stuff where just like you could tell he hasn't been playing football in like, a little while. And, a lot of that stuff is probably correctable. A lot of it comes with just getting back comfortable again. So, so like, when does that light switch turn on? Is he 100% healthy is the other thing going around, is he playing, somewhat hurt? But I think we talked about it too. If he was allegedly hamstring, we know that hamstring was a pretty bad injury against Georgia, had to miss the rest of that game, sat out the Texas game. And then they kind of tailored the offense to what fit him best, so if he's not 100%, like, let's simplify it too. And I think this is the other disappointing thing too. We said, even if this was the case, if DJ's not ready to go, what are we going to do? We got this veteran offensive line.
Yep.
We got this beastified offensive line. We got these two backs. We got Jaden Ball. We're going to run the ball early, lean on it, and that's what's going to kind of carry DJ getting into the flow. And, it's just like, man, we couldn't even do that. And like, it looked good for a little while, that first drive, averaged a 10 a carry for Jaden Ball. And then, he finished the game with 133 total yards on the ground, and that's.
Hey, let's go there next. I was gonna, we're going to talk offensive line because we're here from Jake Slaughter, so now's the perfect time to bring it up. Here's Jake Slaughter on the Gator offensive line so far.
The issues the offensive line has faced so far, just been out of character, surprising maybe so far.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever be surprised in football. You know what I mean? Like, defenses can do whatever they want. It is what it is. It can be frustrating because, sometimes you get caught up and they're moving or we're getting a plug or a pressure, and it's not the pretty playbook drawing, but it's one of those things as players we got to adjust better on the fly, on the move in the game, and kind of get a feel for what the defense is doing, and it falls on us as players to play better.
You said frustrating. I think each position, someone pointed out, committed a penalty on the offensive line. I mean, that seems out of character, especially for a unit expected to be kind of the anchor of the offense. What do you think's going on there with communication or just execution?
Right, I think you pointed out it there. We had a couple communication errors. I had I had a holding penalty, which was frustrating just because nobody wants to get called for it, but. It's one of those things. I think we can communicate better as a group, as an offense. I think that, there's no finger to point. It comes down to, just doing your job, hear what you're supposed to hear and communicate it.
So those difficulties have been against LIU, against USF. Those games have been at home. And going to your point, everybody knows I was high on this offensive line. Now, my question was, could they pass block?
Yeah.
Well, that was a difficulty in game one against LIU. They got better there in game two, I thought. But then, as you said, after that first drive, the run game wasn't much there. After Jaden Ball goes crazy that first drive. So, here we are talking about communication issues. You've had games at home. You got to go to Baton Rouge this week against a better LSU defense, crazy raucous fan base. They're going to be all hyped up, ready to go. And we're having to ask the question, is this veteran offensive line going to be able to communicate? When I wasn't asking that question 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I thought they'd be just fine, A-OK, ready to go to Baton Rouge, ready to go to Miami the very next week. And, all these communication, this is supposed to be kind of not the case.
Yeah.
With guys coming back. And
totally.
Now we're having players, credit to, telling us what the problem is, but then having to admit that they need better communication. Got to figure things out. it's disheartening to hear that from a group that we were really, really, really counting on.
Totally. That's not what you want to hear. You want to hear that you're buttoned up. And like we talked about with Seth last week when we were doing the breakdown of like, gaps move, when defensive linemen, shift, you have moving gaps. So you like you said, you never know which, what defenses are going to do. They can do whatever they want. Totally. And it's not going to look like how the play script is designed at all. You got to work on the fly, but with a veteran group, again, you expect to be able to, the one play I still haven't gotten clarification 100%. Obviously, it was a blown call or a blown missed assignment on the play where Trey was coming in motion.
Yeah.
To basically, I think what ended up happening was it was either George or whoever was on that right side. They blew the assignment, and basically Trey
reacted.
He basically said, "Okay, this is the first guy flashing. It's a big 300-pound D tackle. Let me just hopefully I can throw a block at him." At least he did that. So now we're just like really asking Trey Wilson to come block a D tackle. That wasn't even the assignment, and so it got completely blown. And that was that a 3rd and 4? I think it was maybe
something like that. Yeah.
Like I say, you're just trying to. That would have extended a drive to try to ice that game down, and like that was a bad. My bad. You can't. Again, you cannot have that. So here's what it comes down to. Maybe if that play was blocked perfect, it might have been the perfect play call, but Billy's going to be like, why'd you run that play? And that's what I'm saying. That's where all of this ends up falling down on, like, Billy's a terrible play caller. He's not calling good plays. And then, but when you combo that with poor execution, not knowing the line calls, not knowing, to being able to communicate on certain things, getting holding calls, getting false starts, all that adds up to a loss because there's too many mistakes. Too many, just mess ups, misses. And like when you do that, you're not going to beat anybody, so you're not beating LSU, you're not beating Miami, you can't even beat USF doing that stuff. And that's where this day and age, like, again, these teams, again, I'm curious to see what USF's going to do this week versus Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But USF, when I was looking at the schedule, I knew that I liked how we talked about it. The schedule was like LIU's garbage, go out there, just work on stuff. You're basically playing on air. It's going to ratchet up next week because I looked at what South Florida has done, and we talked about it with Seth. They gave Miami fits last year. They gave Bama fits. Like they're improving. Golish is a good coach. He's got some players in there. His scheme's going to cause problems. They're going to hang around games. So, like, I'll be interested to see how USF fares. But, again, you're the freaking Gators. You got All-American offensive linemen that we talked about. You've got DJ Lagway. You've got Jaden Ball. You don't lose this game. You figure out, you all of a sudden got into a dogfight.
Yeah.
Cat, scratch, claw, do whatever you got to do. Get out of there, get the win, whatever. It didn't happen. So, again, now, all right, we won't blow everything off and just be like it's all over with, but it doesn't feel good. And now you definitely got to show me that you can win a game on the road at Baton Rouge, which we've talked about before. Name a Billy win on the road, man.
Not there. Or not against good teams anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll get into that one a little bit more and some more games. But before we do, look, we're 2 games in, and there's still a lot we don't know about the teams, about college football out there, but you got the upsets, you got the blowouts, and my bookie, they let you hit it all. Florida versus LSU. Hey, guys, that line's come down now from 9.5 to 7.5. It's favoring LSU still, but come down 2 points since Monday. So you can go bet it at MyBookie. It's your one-stop sports book and casino in one. You get one account, one wallet. You bet on football all weekend. And if you need to, who knows how the Florida performance is going to go. But if you feel good because Florida went out there and won a game, or you still need to get your mind off of it, well, you can go out there and play some casino games. You can go hit slots there at MyBookie. No switching apps, no jumping platforms, just straight up action. Get in on the NFL action too, of course. MyBookie has it all under one roof. Game lines, player props, and more. You can get in on the NFL Super Contest and Survivor pools. If you're new to MyBookie, use our promo code GATORS and get your first bet up to $500. That's fully covered. Make your play. If it don't hit, you get it right back with the bet back bonus. No stress, just a one-time rollover on the return bet, so you're free to reload and keep firing. So sign up at mybookie.ag with promo code Gators and claim your bet back bonus. All right, Spun, let's go back to Jake Slaughter and about the adversity. We kind of talked about it, might fall on deaf ears a bit, but of course, that's going to be the message coming from the locker room. Here's Jake Slaughter on the adversity.
We've been here before. We know what it is. A lot of guys on the team, we've experienced this type of adversity, and we need to use it as a springboard. We can't let us hold it. We cannot let it hold us back. It's one of those things. We got to learn from our mistakes, and we got to move forward. There's always a calling to that. As an older veteran player, and it's one of those things that everybody's frustrated after a game like that. Everybody's embarrassed to an extent. Nobody's happy with their individual, and especially not with team performance. So, there's definitely a calling, among the older guys. Right after the game, Tyreek Sapp really shared how he felt and really, how he was thinking about things. And, I think it's inspiring. Whenever you hear him speak, it's inspiring. Guys, just as competitive and passionate as he is. So, but no, we meet, just as players all the time. Just this morning, we had a players-only meeting, started prep for LSU. And, yesterday afternoon, after we met as an offensive line with coaches, we met as players.
So what's this speech, what's the tone of it? Is it angry? Is it imploring people to, what is it? Is it correcting people? What's he doing?
Sapp's one of those guys that it's never a personal attack with him. He's a tremendous leader because he's just so passionate and he wants to bring guys with him. He wants everybody at his level. And it's challenging for him because he knows what it looks like. He knows the urgency that, he feels and that, he wants to bring everybody with him. So, he challenges guys regularly to match him, on the daily. And I'll tell you what, if you ever watch Tyreek Sapp practice, it's there's very few guys that can match him in his intensity and just the way he works. So, we all have a ton of respect for Sapp, the way he carries himself as a player, as a man. So,
all right, there we go, Sponge. Of course, LSU coming up. Players talking about adversity. Players only meeting this week, 2 weeks into the season. So, didn't think I'd be talking about that 2 weeks ago.
No,
but here we
I will
are.
say this. I will say this real quick. Hearing that and I was definitely watching on that last drive, and we were where I was sitting Saturday was basically I was like row 5 in the end zone where they kicked the field goal. So I was watching Sapp, and he is a guy that they need to rally around, and he needs to be that guy because I could tell he was visibly upset. I could just read his body language. We talk about demeanor and body language. I could tell he was upset. He's kind of like hitting his head. He's kind of like down on his knees. He's just like, man, almost like he feels like we let this one slip away and we're about to lose this game. And you could just feel it. And, that's the type of guy that you guys got to rally around somebody like that because you got to have those guys in your locker room.
This is the time for the leaders to step up.
Yeah.
Whoever they are.
I know. And this is another, and this is not, like I say, it's not a shot, but we talk about Billy and his demeanor and how he's kind of like, DJ's that kind of way too. He's kind of been that, just that silent leader and stuff. And, I know a lot of people were kind of criticizing some of what he was saying in his presser after the game. It's football and, it's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that, dude. I want to hear, I'm not playing good. I made some bad reads. I made some bad throws. I didn't do that. Be accountable for what you are. And don't give me this is football line. You're the alpha. You're the big dog on this team. You're the one that everybody, fans, players, coaches are almost counting on you because you're this supposedly special player, and again, I don't need you to get up there and cry like Tebow and say, I will never let, but I mean, you got to have some sort of feeling and care, and that's where this whole new age and me being in coaching is these players are different, man. And they're spoiled with, how they're living, their money, their bags, does it really bother them that they, aren't going to play for a national title? I mean, I'm just saying it's not like it was 20 years ago when you didn't have all that. It was literally just who's going to win. It was all about winning. It's not about how many Instagram followers do I have? Do I have the NIL deal over here when I'm getting this endorsement and doing that? And I've got a Gatorade commercial, it's different. And so we go back to that whole, are you really hungry? Do you really, really care? And it's not I'm not saying they don't care, but do they care? You know what I'm saying? So it's that's a whole, like, you just see it. You see it at the NFL level. I know a lot of fans, they pour into this and they take it so serious. And like I say, it's one of those things of like, this is still just a game. It's still entertainment, all that type of stuff. But us as fanatics and fans, we want those guys to feel like we feel, and like how heartbroken we were Saturday. And
I heard a lady on Feinbaum this week, basically wants to turn in her Gator card. She's like, it's been ugly. I don't even want to go. I don't enjoy my Saturdays anymore. I don't want to go to games anymore. I want my Saturdays back if they're going to be this ugly, if they're going to be this bad, if I can't enjoy it. So, you're right. The world of college football will turn more people that way slowly.
Yeah.
If your team's not winning, I guess.
Totally. Because again, it's just these guys have been, like gifted so much and they're, given so much that like it's one of those things of like, how hard are they really working? How hard are they really grinding? Like, yes, they're working hard. Yes, they want to, win. They want to win, but then at what cost? Are they really putting in that grind effort? Are they like, is it live or die? Do you want to make it to the NFL by putting good tape on, by, doing stuff, the right way to say, hey, I am a baller, and like all that stuff, you got to be accountable for what you got. And like,
you would hate losing more than you love.
Yeah.
winning.
That's how I've always been, man. And when it comes to anything, I hate losing. That was one of the like you saying that I always said when we lost our state championships or whatever, I hated it more than when we won them. And that's and again, I like Haiti gets onto me because I'm in that compete mode. I don't care what we're doing or what we're playing or whatever. Yep. Like I want to win, and then I want to talk trash, and then I'll, if you beat me, you can give it to me, and I'll take it too. But like that's just my nature. And I don't know, if some of the
also the angle of, it's also the angle of, and I guess going back to the earlier part of it, you want to remember the bad times to enjoy the good times.
Yeah,
and that's why a loss like this, and I don't want to hear about this is the rallying cry, blah blah. Well, you've had too many rallying cries.
Yeah, like you say, you're 20-20. You've lost 20 ball games, man.
Right, you've felt this emotion of losing way too much. It shouldn't take that. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, you kind of have to say these things right now.
No,
what else are you going to say when you're in front of a microphone? Yeah. I mean, totally. I get it. You're kind of obligated to do this. So, yeah, of course, that's going to be the message. But at the same time, don't fault anybody if they're not buying into it.
Yeah, well, what happened last year when you were saying this after we got waxed week 1 against Miami? Yeah. We turned around and played how we played against A&M.
Yeah.
So it's, again, you got to show me. I don't have any confidence in you until you show me. You got to build my confidence back up because I'm not buying anything you guys are selling me. Slaughter, I love you and everything, and you're all-American offensive lineman. But again, it shouldn't take an ugly loss or some bad communication and all this to basically meld you together. And we got to have players-only meetings and rally the troops. Like it shouldn't be that way. You should already be in that mindset that like, we can't lose any games. Go back to that old, like, there's no mulligans here. I want to dominate everybody. I don't want to lose because again, like think about this. If this was back in the old BCS era, yeah, the season's over. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's already crazy. Over. That is crazy. Yeah. And I think we still kind of live in that world a little bit.
Right.
And so it's like, man, season's over already. Like, like, but no, it's not. But I mean, you look at this treacherous schedule we got and how much even more difficult it got, like,
there you go.
Just Mississippi State is going to be a banger now,
I mean, Kentucky plays Ole Miss tough. Who knows? FSU now
that was
definitely better than what they are. So
you just tweeted out, and it kind of made me like sad and sick all at the same time, man. The SEC power rankings,
from the SEC Network crew.
Yeah. It was.
There were 4 of them, I believe, and it was unanimous across the board. They all had Florida 15. And you know what? I asked Will this the other night, but you can make a case Florida 16. Kentucky's win over Toledo is better than Florida's win over LIU.
Yeah.
And
they played Ole Miss tough.
So if you want to make that case, you got a case.
Yeah.
All right, let's move forward, Sponge, right here. What do you want to see versus LSU? No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, that was just depressing.
Yeah. What we want to see this week, me and Blake Ruffino from Are You Serious Sports, we'll have a big Florida LSU preview, of course, but he'll be the guest this week previewing LSU. But this was supposed to be a game between two teams nationally. Well, it still is for one of them. Two teams trying to break through from disappointing previous seasons and all the storylines. Now to take a back seat to the storyline of can Florida rebound? After losing to USF. LSU's offense, not all that explosive, still has issues up front, has issues running the ball. On defense, they have looked much improved against Clemson. With that, there's been talk of communication issues on Florida's offensive line, like we were talking about. So, with an improved LSU defense, now you got to go on the road to figure all this out. So add a sync, needing the communication. We just talked about that. And they got to figure all that out on the road in Baton Rouge against an improved Tigers defense. So it's certainly got their hands full. I won't be surprised if Florida plays well Saturday. There's just a better performance. Because that was a bad performance Saturday. It was just a bad performance. So if you have the coaching blunders, maybe the execution's a little bit better, or maybe it's the other way around. If the execution isn't there, maybe I know people will laugh, but there's some kind of coaching advantage you gain in this game. But you can't have both of them again. And if you want to go, so I'd expect just the execution to be a little bit better. But then I second guess that because, all right, it's first game on the road. Likewise, not what we had expected so far. The issues up front on the offensive line. I guess the other way for it is hopefully your defense keeps you in it. Hopefully your defense gives you a shot and kind of mimics last year's game a little bit, where you're not making plays left and right on offense, but you're running the ball okay, and your defense is getting in the backfield and affecting us over and over again. I mean, I'm almost thinking it's got to be almost the same formula this year, given what we've seen from this team right now.
Yeah, no, that's the game plan I'd have, and I think. Looking at LSU, what's crazy is that everybody's touting LSU, and they're the number one team in the SEC right now. They're highly ranked, blah, 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 blah. Like, they got the big win against Clemson. That game was ugly, going back to that week one, and the offense wasn't great. It was a defensive struggle, and, Clemson kind of just found ways to lose that game, in my opinion. But credit to LSU, they won the game. But, yeah, they just haven't been – I think you might have put it out there talking about the explosives of – and they're lacking big explosive plays. They just don't have them. And then what I really looked at was this past week in their game against La Tech, where they scored 23. They ended up rushing for only 128 yards, but you take away 2 of the runs, and they had 37 yards total. They had a 48-yard run and a 43-yard run were the two long runs. And like I say, if you take those big runs off, they only would have had 37 yards. I'm not you don't take them off, but
yeah. Those
are big plays that, yes, they got those explosive plays, but that means you're still having a hard time running the football against La Tech. I do think they're going to play inspired ball. I do. I think they will have that some sort of back against the wall mentality is what they should have. And what you do on the road, the formula for road wins is, can you run the football? Which again, like, let's lean on it. Like, we know it's there. We've seen it. So it's like, let's figure it out. And then, hopefully DJ, is going to have another week under his belt, has a good week of practice. Like, we need Dallas Wilson back bad though. Cause he's just,
I don't think he'll play.
I don't think he is either. I'm just saying we need him back bad because
and going to the defensive side, I do think Banks good shot at playing.
That will definitely help with the defense. Cause I think we can kind of, hopefully contain their run game and just get after Nuss, and like, I feel like it's going to be a 4-quarter ball game. I'm not afraid of anything that LSU's got offensively. It's not Jaden Daniels and BTJ and Malik Neighbors. It's not Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. This is not that. Nussmeier is mid compared to those quarterbacks, and they don't have the weapons like they've had. Like, yes, Anderson's a nice receiver. I do like Barry Brown from Kentucky. He's a speedster guy, but it's not like I'm like afraid of these guys, so hopefully, you just find yourself in a 4-quarter ball game, which is, you're expecting it to be. Now, can you either execute, a last minute drive? If you got the ball last, do you have confidence in this team going down the field and, kicking a field goal to win the game or scoring a late touchdown? I don't know. And then, or do you put it on your defense where you just watch them let USF go 90 yards on the last drive? And so, so that's almost what I feel like is going to happen. One of those two things. And right now, again, I wouldn't pick us to succeed in that. And they got to show me they can do one of those two things before I have confidence in them. But I feel like we should be in the game, and I feel like we can make it a game. And I don't think you can just write off everything. It's like, it's not over. Like, I still think this team is super talented. And I think the question is, if they would have won the game against USF, found a way to win, where would that line be? It's that set. I feel like LSU might only be a 3 to 4 point favorite, just because they'd have that home field, advantage. So I'd give them a field goal game. So, it's not like they're 21 point favorites or anything like that. So Vegas knows something, but no, but I feel like we are going to play some sort of inspired ball. Now the question is, can you do those things to get a huge road win? Just get that one. Don't worry about. But I mean, I don't know. How are you feeling? Feeling similar?
Yeah. I think you'll play inspired. Playing inspired won't be enough.
Yeah,
that means by itself, that's not enough. You can
be
play
early.
hard and lose.
You feel early. You feel good. But that's not going to win you the game.
No, you can play hard and lose. So. Yes, preseason, I picked this as a win. I'm not picking it now. I let that be known last Saturday night. I'm not picking Florida to win this game. We'll get the final score prediction on tomorrow's episode. But, yeah, I mean, I'm there. I've let it be known. I do think Florida shows up. I think they do play a game. If they don't, then even more ugly questions will arise. But I hope for them they're in it and give themselves a chance. I mean, just give yourself a chance. Don't take yourself out of it. You play exactly like you did last week. Yeah, you're going to lose by a couple scores.
Yeah.
But if you don't, and like I said, you get at least some aspect that you would consider good, you should be in this game. And maybe you find yourself on the winning side, but for all the issues, and I'll repeat it again in case nobody's heard it, but I'm sure you have. I mean, Billy Napier is yet to be the team that finishes with a winning record on the road. He just hasn't done it. So I'm supposed to believe this is going to be the first one after what we just saw last weekend.
Exactly.
So that's where it comes from me. I just 2 weeks ago, I was chalking this up as a W, but I also thought this team was a little bit better than what they were. We reserve the right to change our minds when we get some evidence.
Totally. That's what we said in the summer. We can talk about it until we're blue in the face. What we got here, we got depth here, we got good linebacker core here, we got these. Who's going to step up?
Shout out to those guys. I think they've been playing good.
They have. I wasn't throwing them under the bus.
I know. Yeah.
And it's like, again, the thing about it is, that's what we can only talk about what we think is going to happen and what we are being told that like this is good, this is good, this is good. We're good
Miles
here.
Graham, Jade Robinson, they've lived up to reputation.
Totally.
I mean, give me those guys.
Yeah, like I say, our defensively, again, take nothing from LIU. There were certain portions of that game I talked about. I hated the way we were
passive.
I hated the way we were guarding like the trips formation. Like it was basically we were just giving up the inside hitch every single play. So it was like, here's a free 6 yards every play, and like a team like South Florida, you're like taking, they're stealing, so they're like, all right, cool. We'll take this 5-6 yards every time. And then now we're in second and third. Exactly. Second and third and short. And now we're just going to eat on these little 2-3 yard runs, and you can't expect your defense to basically be like, all right, I need to stop on 2nd and 3, 3rd and 2, like every single time. And what's crazy is when you think about it, they did a pretty good job in that third quarter of getting the stops they needed to get. It's just then we didn't execute again on offense. So it's like, again, it goes complementary football is such a big thing. Like if the defense is playing well, offense, pick me up, do something, and that's why at least, Vernell got the big spark on special teams that, set us up. So it's just like, if you get in this game against LSU and you're able to, slow the run game down, can you stop the passing thing? Can you get after Nuss and make him, uncomfortable, make him, not throw some good balls, maybe throw you one or something. But I think the MO needs to be is a very similar game plan to last year in Gainesville, and hopefully you're able to run the ball, establish that run game, and then hit them on some play action stuff. But like, I would sure love
which quarterback is going to hit the explosives.
Exactly. And like I say, I would love to see DJ throw it. And what'd you tell me this morning? DJ's like passes over 20 or 30 yards are for the
only two over 30. So
and that's not what we saw last year. We saw him winging it, and you can't just go out there and throw 9 balls in deep posts. But like you got to take a shot every now and again just to let them know you can do it. And that's they don't respect it. They're going to load up and basically say we're going to load up this run and say DJ, can you beat me? I think we said that last week. South Florida's going to try to load up and stop this run game and say DJ, can you beat me? And it kind of started going that way when they started, controlling the run game.
All right, there we go. A little bit of Florida LSU. Look, we'll get into some other games. We will quickly do that, and then it'll be another edition of Focus on the Gators with Alex Shepard. So, all right, let's get into some SEC games, sponge some key SEC games, as we said, kind of college game days, pick 'em style here. Not too deep dives here.
No in-depth.
Yeah. Vandy at South Carolina. South Carolina on my bookie, favored by 4 points at home, and man, fun quarterback matchup. This one can be Diego Pavia, Lenore Sellers, of course. Pavia, up against that South Carolina pass rush and defensive front. That should be a fun watch. And I think it'll be a game. I think that's where the game will be decided. You get South Carolina at home and their defensive front. I think they get it done. But look, both have played Virginia Tech. Vandy has played them better. But I think their defensive front, Lenore Sellers at home, make enough of a difference where South Carolina squeaks. I think this is going to be a really good game.
I do too.
I think they squeak it out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be shootout style, and team who has the ball last might win this one. Whoever doesn't turn it over. That was the other stat I heard on, I think Doring said it this morning, and they talked about it on SEC, network about who are the bottom 2 QBR quarterbacks, or there's one who's at the very bottom, but the next 2 at the bottom, and what's their QBR rating and who they are. And you might be surprised at who they are. You have any idea who it is?
I mean, if we're talking about these 2 quarterbacks, is it really these 2?
It's one of the 2. It's our quarterback. Our quarterback is one of them.
Well, then Sellers is probably the other.
That is it.
Because he did not play great versus Virginia Tech. I didn't really watch him last week. Wrong, but
South Carolina State. And it was like Sellers has got the big, him and DJ were the big hot guys coming in, and not to say Sellers is not going to be good, and he's been good, but again, QBR wise and statistical rankings, all that, he hasn't been like lights out, lighting it up. Pavia's been good. Like I say, they played Virginia Tech better. They put
and in Lane Stadium, it wasn't a neutral site like South Carolina and Virginia Tech.
Yeah, so this could be who knows? But I like South Carolina because they are at home. They do play better at Williams-Brice. The line's pretty low. The line's 4.5. That's a touchdown. So I would probably take Carolina in a tight one for sure. But like I say, that's going to be
4 though. That is I wouldn't touch that one.
No, heck no. What sucks is that it's on the dang same time as our game, So it's like you got to have the double TV going over there.
Yep. All right, let's go. Let's go to South Bend, Texas A&M, going up there. 6.5 underdogs to Notre Dame on my bookie. So now this is your big early college football playoff movement type of game here for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Possibly give them another loss, that's 10-2 with not a great schedule. If they lose to Miami, lose to Texas A&M, outside of that, the schedule's not great. So, there's college football playoff maybe discussion to be had there. Now we do know more about the Irish as they play Miami and Texas A&M, not as much since they've played UTSA, Utah State. Not pretty in those games, but they get the job done. But this has maybe opposite of South Carolina and Vandy. This one just kind of has that chance to be knocked down, dragged out, physical bruising.
Totally. It's kind of how it was last year. Last year's game
exactly
was like that.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. Marcel Reed did not play in this game a year ago. His first start was in Gainesville against the Gators. This was the opener last year for both these teams. And, of course, Notre Dame went into Kyle Field and got that win. CJ Carr, looked good a couple of weeks ago, but I think here in this one, they're not going to make the mistake of not using Jeremiah Love a bit more than they use against Miami. So I think Notre Dame wins this one, and they keep their college football playoff high hopes with after a loss against Miami. They can afford that one.
Yeah,
I don't think they can afford this one too much, but I think they get this one done, and it kind of keeps them in that discussion for the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you that, but I tell you this something funny. So Saturday we're hanging out, and Darrell Lee played DN for the Gators. I see him. We're over tailgating. He's got his phone out. I'm like, you watching nephew? Because his nephew is the cornerback, Will Lee the third. He's one of the starting cornerbacks. They call him the blanket. That's his nephew. And so he's like, they were kind of struggling early in that game. And I was like, Notre Dame next week. I was like, what's up? He's like, I'm going, man. I'm going. So he's headed to South Bend this week to watch his nephew play, for Texas A&M. And he's super proud of him. I was like, that's cool, man. It's awesome that, you were a big time college football player at Florida. You're, now he's at A&M, and he's gotten the moniker to be one of the shutdown corners in the league. And, you get to go to, travel all over the country and go watch, normally you wouldn't think an SEC team going to South Bend. So that's like one of those bucket list things. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to touchdown Jesus, baby. So he's headed up there. But I do agree with you. I think I want to see what this new led Marcel Reed, offense looks like, against somebody because Notre Dame's got a good D, and we knew that Freeman is going to keep a good defense. They played good D against Miami. But I feel like they're kind of like us. Their backs are against the wall. They know they can't afford to lose any more games, because if they do lose this one, their playoff hopes are pretty much dashed, in my opinion, because I don't know if the rest of their schedule is beefy enough to basically give them an argument, at 10-2 if they were to go 10-2. But yeah, like I say, I feel like it's going to be another, like you say, a slobber knocker, defensive struggle, low scoring game. The line, though, I don't know. I might take the points, but
yeah,
I think Notre Dame gets the win.
I'll let you go first on this one. The ugly red and black going up to the ugly orange in Knoxville. Two of our biggest conference rivals here, Georgia and Tennessee, going at it. Georgia, 3.5-point favorites. And that line has come down, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was at 4, I think, earlier. But here's what's weird. I feel like Georgia is not playing they didn't obviously light it up against Austin Peay last week. I know Georgia fans were like, we only scored 28, and your defense has only given up 13 in the 2 games.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, Tennessee's looked, fairly impressively offensively, with minus Nico, I'm leaving to UCLA. So I said Georgia earlier, and I think I'll stick with it just because it's hard to bet against the team with the G, because they just, they're the standard of the SEC. Yeah. But I think Tennessee, who knows? I want to see what this new offense looks like against a rock solid defense. But I'm going to roll Georgia just because, and it's just because I'm not 100% believe. They played Syracuse tough. You played nobody last week, and you scored. I would love to see Florida score 70 in a game. That's what we should have did to LIU. But again, that's for another argument, another day. But now I feel like Georgia I feel like, defensively they're going to be good. But the big question here is, being on the road in Knoxville, that place is going to be rocking. Is Gunnar Stockton really that guy? That's going to be
his first true road game too, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this could be a little hairy for the Dogs. So, but I'll roll with Georgia just because I'm still giving them the respect of who they are, and I'm not 100% on the Heupel train still.
Yeah, 8 straight for Georgia over Tennessee. So you got to think it's got to end at some point.
Yeah, there you go. It could be.
But in every defeat by double digits, by the way. So
yeah, they've kind of owned that series, definitely.
Yeah. Here's the thing: I got to see a Tennessee offense led by Josh Heupel have success against a defense led by Kirby Smart and that Georgia staff. And
that's kind of where I'm.
They do such a good job at. All right, we'll man up, and you know what? We'll win up front.
Yeah.
And against that Tennessee offense, if you win up front, it's pretty much over. And Georgia's done it. So if you want me to go the other way, I got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
It's that
I'm
simple.
with you.
I still don't know how much we know about either team.
Yeah.
I know Kirby Smart in defense, and
Yeah.
I know what history has told us against Josh Apple's offense. So it's a see it to believe it thing. Tennessee maybe a little better than I thought with Aguilar, but as you said, I mean, who did Syracuse struggle with last week?
UConn.
Yeah, UConn.
Yeah, they're running sprints at the end of the game.
Yeah. Of course, not happy with the performance, but all right. Syracuse got the brains beat in by Tennessee, and then lackluster performance the very next week. So maybe Syracuse not as good. Gunnar Stockton, as you said, hasn't really stood out against two cupcakes so far. So we find out a lot about him. So I think find out a lot about both quarterbacks here.
Yeah,
but
Aguilar, this is going to be a welcome to the SEC, buddy.
Right, right. So I'm taking the Georgia defense with this one, and to get it done. And they won by double digits, 8 straight games in a row. Line's 3.5. I think they'll barely cover that.
Yeah,
might be the first single digit win in that in the winning streak. All right, there we go. There's your big games in the SEC this week.
Let's go Gators. Come on, baby.
Hey, I might get to watch a little bit of college football.
I was about to say,
in Gainesville.
you
I
have
get
to
a tailgate. I don't get to watch as much college football, so it's we get a night game, so I get to enjoy the first couple of windows of games here.
Yeah, like I said, that's a 3:30 kick, so that's before ours, so that'll be good. But,
Miami and USF at 4. So as you said earlier, that game interest it's a big interest here of USF, Boise, Florida wins. Miami and Notre Dame win, but
what if USF beats Miami this weekend?
In what ways are you asking that question?
Like, how do you feel? Let's throw this hypothetical. See, I'm a hypothetical guy. So let's say Florida beats LSU. We get the win. We play great. We put our backs against the wall. We pull out the win. We don't blow them out. We get a win. We get a great win. Let's say USF, bangs with Miami the whole way and they kick a late field goal and win the game. It's maybe not as ugly as our game, but maybe they win a 27-24 game or something like that. What's the temperature? How are we feeling? Are we feeling okay? Well, we got a great LSU road win, and now this USF team might be better than we thought. Now, can we go get this? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there on how would you feel? Would you feel a little better?
Obviously, you probably feel a little better, but at the same time, I'm just like, this is Billy Napier year 4. So why is USF able to do these things? Right. And you just lost to them last week. So that it's always the angle about Florida first for me, even in that regard. And I kind of lend itself to I don't care what other teams do.
Yeah.
So this is a year 4 Florida. I'm expecting you to compete for the SEC, compete for a college football playoff spot, and then go take your chances. Yeah. I guess all that would still be in front of Florida.
Right.
But if I'm at the point is, well, if USF can do this at this point, why is Florida not doing it? Well, I mean, there's still no excuse to me to lose to them the week before.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. What'll then have to happen is you'll have to see what they do the following week and the following week, as the season goes on. Because sure, I mean, USF, maybe they pull 3 straight ranked upsets and beat the team that they're heavily. And then what
did they do when they get into conference play with their conference? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, so, no, like I said, that's the great part about it.
The leader in the clubhouse now too, right? Are they with the G5s?
Yeah, because they're in the American. So yeah. They got
kind of have to be there, right?
Tulane, is that who they got to deal with? Maybe.
Yeah. Do they play? Do they play each other?
Let's see. I'm gonna pull it right now.
Yeah. A little bit of live, production.
They got Canes, South Carolina State, Charlotte, North Texas, FAU. No, they don't. North Texas, FAU, Memphis, UTSA, Navy, UAB, Rice.
Well, last week, going to that, and it's not like they played this great game against Florida.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. USF, after watching, it's like they didn't impress me. Like it's just more so of, we shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
So do I expect?
I said last Saturday night, I expect Miami to kind of control that game. But
yeah, and that's what I expect to see, and that's that's the good part about ball is we get to watch it and see and then be like, okay, here's what we're in for next week.
yeah, my predictions this year have sucked anyway, so it doesn't really, it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man. I mean, I get Memphis is in the car. Did they play? Did they play Memphis?
Yeah, they play Memphis.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see down the road. It could be more, but who knows? All right, that'll do it right here with Sponge. We got even more Gators Breakdown coming up. And here we are once again with another edition of Focus on the Gators with Alex Shepard right there on the sideline in the swamp this season for us on Gators Breakdown. A trip to Miami here in Jacksonville as well. Alex will be bringing us those beautiful photos that we've been putting out on social media, and we shared them here on the podcast as well. Alex got the season started last week, and of course, it was your first time for the 2025 season, and we were previewing this season a little bit. Of course, you said last week that you were not jumping on the hype train as many others were, and well, it looks like you were right not to.
What can I say? I see the future. No. I mean, it's definitely you've said this already, speaking with all your guys, it's a letdown, right? I mean, we expected, a lot of people were already talking about, we're going to go play Miami in 2 weeks and we're going to see who the real kings of the state are. And here we are. Now we're not even in the conversation. So, we may even be in talks for fourth, given how FSU has looked in their first 2 weeks. So this is the University of Florida. This is not where we should be. From the beginning, I did say I had my hesitations that I was not buying the 9-3, 10-2 mentality of this team. I thought that 6 or 7 wins was completely doable, potentially 8. And even that has me a little scared now. So unfortunate, but I guess we're going to have to see what happens here these next couple of weeks to really tell us what kind of team we are.
So I guess we didn't really get your official season prediction, but were you like 6 or 7 to begin with?
I was so optimistically, I was thinking 8-4.
Okay.
I was looking at the schedule. I still did not have a lot of confidence in Napier's play calling. I think that was my biggest reservation. I think this is the most talented team we've had since probably the 2020 season with Trask and all those guys. Cause that was stacked, but in terms of,
and another reason why it's so disappointing.
Yeah. And going in, I didn't have that, I've seen that he can really call the plays and win these big games. Even the Tulane game, I wasn't like, oh my goodness, we're really on it's Tulane, guys. Come on. We're not playing a top 25 team like that in a bowl game. And I came into this year very much trying to temper my expectations. Kind of like what I said last week. I've been through it. I've been around Gator football so long. I've seen the ups and the downs. And I did not want to get my hopes up. I'm glad I didn't.
I go back and look at it. I got so far down after the Arkansas loss in year 2. I got so far down after Miami and Texas A&M. I told myself I wasn't going to climb back. And then the big wins over LSU and Ole Miss helped. And then, but as I said, and I said all off season, it was, you brought up the talent, and I was like, okay, they don't get me wrong. You don't want to count on it. And look, I wasn't picking Florida to win a national championship, but we've seen Gene Chizik win a national championship. We've seen Ed Orgeron win a national championship. I was like, okay, I like the talent on this team. I'm not picking to win a national championship, but okay, 9-3 is attainable. That's why we're so disappointed. Okay, I know the limitations on the sideline. I fully admitted there were limitations on the sideline. I just thought the talent would come take over, and especially in a game against USF.
Especially.
That's where, okay, I get there's limitations on the sideline. Okay, I'm picking the talent to pull through. But that's not what we got there. So
no, it is not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really sad day to be a Gator.
It really was. Started out beautiful though, Alex. Man, that shot right there of the flyover, man, that was good stuff. That's good stuff right there, man.
I want to have a discussion with the pyrotechnics team. For those who can't see it, they shot off fireworks right before they came through. And so the smoke covered the plane. That's not a cloud. That is smoke from the fireworks covering that second plane.
There we go. I learned something. I thought it was a cloud, but I was like, you know what? If that's a cloud, like,
that's a low cloud.
That's a low cloud. Exactly. So no. I didn't even think about it until you just said something. So yeah.
But
the timing was off. The timing was off. Everything was the time. The team ran out even before.
Ran out early. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You could just tell something was off from the very beginning. But yeah, that was really weird. And even people who don't follow it closely with them running out of the tunnel, for example, they have someone that tells them stop here and wait, and then they have someone that tells them like when to go. It's like somebody with a headset who is in communications and tells them to go. I don't know why Billy thought it was ready to go, but he's the one who made the call. He just said, all right, and just took off, and everyone followed. So
it even came out before, the swamps. Only Gators get out alive.
Before the team
was out.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I guess Billy was just hyped. I guess he was just ready to go, but for whatever reason, it didn't translate.
Tell if he's crying or I don't know. Like he knew it was coming, or I think he was just stretching his neck actually. But it was a.
I mean, it looks like he's ready to go there, but didn't turn out that way.
No, it did not.
So,
but I mean, kind of like we've talked about in previous games, I'm noticing a lot like pregame, the energy is there. Like the guys, especially Trey Wilson, I'd say out of anybody that I was watching, Trey Wilson, as well as the inside, like the defensive tackles, they before the game, they do these like one-on-one drills with one of the coaches, and I mean they are like on the verge of punching each other. How hyped up they are, and there are some images of that in here, but the energy felt like it was there, man, which is why it's so surprising. It just felt so flat, like after one of those missed plays that we're going to get to.
Well, I didn't mean to go to that one, but I'm going back. Unfortunate news, LJ McCray, he actually did get some snaps. Now a broken foot, will have surgery. We'll see what his timeline is. Not sure if he's out for the whole year or not, but we'll see how that goes. You mentioned all this stuff pregame here. So
McLeod.
Yep.
So I don't know who the coach is on the side. I didn't get a good look at him, but I mean they are like pushing each other to the ground almost with how hyped up they are. That was definitely the group as a whole that I saw the most fire in. Lagway was just as composed as he normally is. He shows very little emotion, high fives all the guys, does his pregame ritual, and it's just all business. So nothing to report there that was any different.
Yeah, I mean. These photos up here coming out of the tunnel, that's some good stuff there. I haven't seen. There's some kind of new shots for you there with the smoke and stuff. I like that.
Yeah. So last week I got those wide angle from further out. This time, lesson number one, I'm going to bring earplugs because those things are loud. Oh my goodness, those smoke machines are loud, and they were literally just like directed right at me. So I was not fully prepared for that. I do like one that's coming up. That one, though, his eyes are not edited.
I know they're rolled up in the back of
demon mode was turned on or something. Like he was. I mean, at least in that moment, I guess it wears off as you touch the field or something. I don't know, but that was not edited at all in the terms of the eyes. Obviously, I did a little color touching up. It looks a little more saturated on here than they actually are, but
in the black and white, you can really.
Yeah.
Check
out the YouTube if you want to see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Make sure you're watching YouTube if you want to check out these photos. And look, I made sure last week I shared some of my favorite photos. Well, you shared some of your favorites because you told a good story with all the missed chances Florida had. So I just retweeted your the images that you showed because there's a story of the game right there of just all the missed opportunities this team had. The penalties, the drop passes, the missed passes. I mean, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong.
Yes, a picture is worth 1,000 missed opportunities. Yeah.
Trying to get we'll get to some of those here coming up. But Alex, what was the vibe on the field afterwards? I don't know, whether you can share or want to share some of the things. You and I text back and forth a bit, but it's well, first of all, we go back a year ago and we all remember the boos and the chants towards Billy Napier as he's running into the tunnel after the game. It was very similar to post Miami, post Texas A&M once again.
Yeah, so I mean, we are right back. I mean, it did not take the crowd long to get back into that. I think as soon as that offense started to get stagnant, the people felt exactly like they did last year when we were in that slump where we just were not feeling any creativity coming from the offense. The boos started early. It didn't take very long for them to get started. This after some of these for the penalties, those were pretty prevalent. That obviously wasn't a coaching boo, but more of the refs. But as the game went on, it became clear the crowd was increasingly frustrated. I was getting texts from friends saying, are the boos really as loud as we can hear them on the TV? And they certainly were, as we progressed through the game. And then, like you said, we do text during the game. After the game, as you'd expect, this was probably the slowest walkout for a coaching handshake that I've seen Billy Napier do in my 4 years of photographing him. He was not quick to get off the sideline. He was slowly making his way. Obviously, Golish was sprinting his way across the field and met Billy probably about, 10 yards off of our sideline. That's how far Billy came off before Golish got to him. So there he is. So he was everyone else obviously very, very down. And then as, Gator Nation is accustomed to, all the players go over to the band. They sing the alma mater, win or lose in all kinds of weather. And unfortunately, some players chose not to participate in that. Coaches were trying to get people back on the field. There were a few guys, I don't know if I should name them or not, or leave it up for people with photos and videos.
I don't want to get you in trouble with access on the field. So we won't go there.
There were players that made their way to the locker room. A lot of coaches did try to bring people back on the field. There were plenty. Rob Sale was one who was calling people back, telling them to go sing the alma mater, which was good to hear. But you never want to see that. That tells me, obviously these guys are hurt. They wanted to win this game. And then obviously once a lot of the players come off, none of the players that I could hear were getting booed. There were more cheers for the players, like it's all right, good try, guys, like a lot of support for the actual players themselves. Where the real boos came in, Strickland got it first. He walked in. There were a lot of things I won't repeat on this podcast that were yelled at Strickland. He was obviously
we try to be family friendly most of the time here.
Yes, I appreciate that. I will keep it PG. It was a lot of fudge sent his way. And he went in, and then Billy, in his typical way, kind of sprinted his way through the tunnel to the same kind of chorus of boos and other items. So a lot of disapproval from the fans, obviously, for good reason. They don't like the product on the field, and they did not hesitate to let them both know it.
Alex, with this, we know Scott Strickland recently signed an extension. So his job's secure for some time now, 2030, I believe, something like that. When you go look at that, and I've been asked this question, it does make a lot of sense. At one time, we thought the two were tied together, Scott Strickland, Billy Napier. Well, the AD got an extension. Does that free him up now to kind of release himself from Billy Napier? Like now he can be free to make that decision if it comes to it in the coming weeks, coming months. Does Scott Strickland now feel safe to make that decision, or is he still such a Billy Napier fan? Like, I think the leash is going to be long no matter what. But now with this year, who knows what the record has to be for Scott Strickland to really think about getting rid of Billy Napier. But I do think it does make some sense now that he's got that extension. He may not be as tied to Billy Napier as he once was.
Yeah, I think that definitely frees him up a little bit. But at the same time, granted, it feels like the everyday UF fan really does not have a sway in what decisions are made. Mm-hmm. We can boo all we want. The fans in the stadium can boo all they want. But, Strickland's going to do what he wants. And I would guarantee you that a majority of the typical UF fan that is at the stadium would probably not want Strickland to be kept even if Napier is fired. Now, like you said, he has an extension. He'll be here. I think that, yes, like you said, in a way, it does free him up to make that decision and potentially go on another coaching search. But, can Gator Nation trust that when we've had, I think, 3 or 4 coaching hires under him for football? granted, I was a fan of Mullen. Obviously, I didn't like the recruiting aspect, as everyone is well aware. But
I mean, everybody knows me. Mullen was my top choice that year. The year he was hired, he was my top choice.
I thought he was a great pick. I think that, he didn't want to recruit as much, but I still personally wanted to keep him. I did not agree with getting rid of him. That last year, I think, was an anomaly, but, it's just hard to keep backing Strickland with his backing of Napier when you're looking at this record of he's got a worse record than the last 5 coaches through 40 games, even though it was McElwain was let go before 40. I think he was like 23-13 or something like that. And I don't know, how long can you give a guy to rebuild, right? So Napier and Strickland have a lot of discussions coming up, I'm sure. But yeah, I think overall, to kind of bring it back to your point, it does free him up a little bit, but will he make the one that potentially saves his job too?
Maybe on that same note, but a question I did want to ask you, I guess in your opinion, because I think everybody might have a different question or a different answer to this. Where does Florida go from here? Like, we're talking 2025 season, 1-1 again for the 4th season in a row. LSU, Miami, Texas, bye week, Texas A&M coming up.
Georgia after that,
Mississippi State. Then Georgia. And can we really look past Mississippi State now? A big win over Arizona State this past week, the defending Big 12 champs, and in the college football playoff last year, big win for Mississippi State.
Potentially maybe ranked by the time they get here.
Who knows? Who knows? But I mean, we know the schedule. We know the schedule. But where does Florida go from here? I mean, there is a chance to rally the troops. There is all that. That's still cliche, but everything's still in front of Florida. But it's hard to look past what we saw last week and feel there's some confidence there that this team can be the 10-2, 9-3, and still somehow make the college football playoff. I don't know where the headspace is of the team. So where do they go from here?
Man, that's obviously a hard question because it's just all. No, it's more opinion based, but as a true Gator, which I am through and through. You hope that the team can find some kind of rallying cry and go win some big games on the road. I'm just a realist, and we just haven't done that in 4 years of Napier. We have not gone on the road and won big games. And so given the history of the program under Napier, I just don't see how we're going to do anything different. And so my fear is that we go to LSU, get beat by potentially 3 touchdowns or something wild. I hope it's less than that. I think the defense has played well enough to potentially keep it closer than that. But once we get to that first bye, I think that's when the decisions need to be made. If we go 0-2 in our next 2 games, and before Texas, and we're sitting here 1-3, I think that you get an early jump and you move on. And that's hard because, again, like everyone says, Napier is a great person. He's a great human. He's a great CEO type, but it's clear that he's just not cut out to be Florida head coach in my eyes. So where do we go from here? Hope and pray for the next 2 weeks that we have something special up our sleeve that we can pull out, maybe get a win at one of those games. And then the bye week will tell us a lot.
I agree. I still can't find myself completely dismissing this team yet. It was just 2 weeks that, I had some high expectations for this team. But what I will tell you, the confidence isn't there anymore. Like, I don't want to dismiss what I thought, but the confidence of them living up to what I thought they could be is shot. It's more I got to see it to believe it, and if it happens, it's happened. But why should there be any point of projecting that they bounce back, that they do what they did last year? Why? Only because they did it last year? Is that the only thing we can point to about, okay, well, there's some hope because they did it last year? Well, great. They may do those things again, but I'm going to have in the back of my head, where's the next screw up? What game are we not supposed to lose next time?
I mean, even let's just throw out this possibility. Let's say we finish 7-5 and we beat Georgia this year. We beat FSU. We beat Mississippi State. Pick up, 1 or 2 of these wins we're not supposed to win. We're still sitting at 7-5, missing the playoff for a 4th year in a row.
Yep.
Mullen, forgive me. Mullen got 9 wins and 10 wins in his first 3 seasons. Was it? Or was it 10 in second season and third season?
I think it was 10 the first season because of the bowl game. Maybe.
I get him mixed up, but all I know is in his first 3 seasons, he had multiple 10-win seasons.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't take 4 full years. I know Mullen left kind of a tough place for the program, but it shouldn't take 4 full years to say, right. These are mistakes that we still need to be like fixing. It's on me. I need to coach better. It's been 4 years, brother. I mean, I'll
put it on repeat. I said, I don't care who the head coach is. In year 4 at the University of Florida, sorry, expectations are, especially in a 12-team playoff. All right, you got to get there.
You should be in it by now with the resources that are ported to this program. And I'm not saying, we have that like Texas oil money, but like you should be in the playoff every year. And that's the expectation here. And if we're sitting here and saying, you know what, I can see the silver lining with the 7-5 season. If we get a couple big wins, we had that promise last year and look where we're at. Right. So we're just going to keep on telling ourselves that every year is going to get better. And we're going to keep on getting surprised by losing to some team, and then you know what? Next year we're probably going to lose like some FCS team, and then everyone's going to have the same problem. Yeah. So
7-5 is that magical number for me. Like, and not personally for me, but in the way I look at it, because that's the first record I see the administration actually maybe having the thought. Like 8-4, I'd probably get rid of him because we're not in the playoff by year 4. But I know the administration's not. So it's just to me, it's a waste of time even thinking about it, because 8-4 is going to be good enough for them. 7-5, I think might cast some doubts on the right people. Anything less than that, I don't know how in the world they defend it.
Yeah, I'm still, unless he turns it around and gets more than 8 wins, I'm not a booster. I'm not giving millions of dollars. I'm not the ones with the big pockets making the decisions. To stay the coach of the Florida Gators in Alex Shepard, Agent Shep's eyes, you need 8 at a bare minimum, and I can't see it. He'd have to really show me something these next 2 weeks that really opened my eyes to that being a possibility. But otherwise, we could be seeing the beginning of the end here.
Yep. Good stuff, Alex. Great photos once again, man. At Agent Shep right there on Twitter. What is it? Are you on Instagram too?
Yeah, Alex Shepard photo on Instagram.
Okay, got to start. We probably got to start. I guess.
Yeah, just add it on the bottom there.
Yeah, putting that out there too, I guess. Yeah. Do you put your photos there too?
I do. I actually post a lot of photos there.
All right. Okay. Well,
David, we've been doing this for a year and a half now, and you don't know, man. Dang. Come on.
Admittedly, it is not a you thing at all. I don't do Instagram. Which is ridiculous for probably my way of doing things. I don't do Instagram. So
no, it's okay. I understand.
So, I just that is not a you thing. It's it's a me thing. All good. Alex, anybody want to be living here in Jacksonville, moving around Jacksonville, moving to the area? How can you help them there?
Yep. So like I mentioned in the first pod, I am a realtor here in Jacksonville. I've been doing it for 5, working on 6 years now. And I can help anybody no matter where they are. Jacksonville, I would be representing you if you're in the Northeast Florida area, Yulee, Jacksonville, Palm Coast, Ponte Vedra, anything like that. If you're even looking throughout the state or the country or the world, actually, I can refer you an agent anywhere. So you want to just hear about the market, you want to hear about what it's looking like to buy a house or sell a house right now, just shoot me a DM on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and my Instagram, which we'll start linking in here, I'm sure. But thanks again for having me, David. We'll do it again here in 2 weeks when I travel down to Miami.
Yeah, for sure. All right, everybody. Good stuff there. You can see it and you hear it right here on Gators Breakdown, focused on the Gators with Alex Shepard.